All right, quotient rule. I'm going to show you later, once we get chain rule, that a lot of times it's quicker to use chain rule on fractions instead of using quotient rule. There's kind of a shortcut we can take. At least I think it's a shortcut. But you do need to know quotient rule. And again, just like I did with product rule, I'm going to write this out in a way that doesn't have the of x everywhere. And this is if you have, I'll write it over here. If you have a fraction and you want to take the derivative, you can't just distribute top and bottom. Limits you can distribute. You can't with derivatives. The derivative of a fraction is derivative of the top times leave the bottom alone minus derivative of the bottom times leave the top alone. So far, a lot like product rule. Product rule would have a plus right there. So it's just like product rule, but with a minus instead. And then that's all over the bottom squared. Okay, so let's take a look here. We'll do a couple of different problems. Let's call this guy F. So he's 5x squared. And let's call the bottom here G. 4x plus 3. Then K prime will be F prime G minus G prime F all over the bottom squared. We're going to need a lot of parentheses here. Parentheses are your friends. Okay, derivative of the top. So these you should practice enough that you can just do these in your head. 2 times 5 will be 10x, and then that 2 drops down by 1 and just becomes a 1. So I'll put it in explicitly. It's not necessary. I write that. That's the derivative of the top. Times, leave the bottom alone. Just rewrite the bottom. Minus the derivative of the bottom. The derivative of 4x would just be 4 times x to the 0. 1 times 4 is 4. That 1 drops down and becomes a 0. X to the 0 was just 1, so I don't even want to write that. Plus, derivative of a constant is 0. So I could, if I wanted, I could put a plus 0 there. But what's 4 plus 0 is just 4. That's G prime times, leave the top alone, all over the bottom squared. And I have to have parentheses here. So 4x plus 3 squared. And then maybe I'd want to clean that up, maybe not. Like at this point, I'm just going to leave it. You'll have a lot of times where you'll have to clean that up. But for now, let's just leave it. Okay. Here, let's call the top F and the bottom G. It doesn't matter which you call them. It's always derivative of the top times the bottom minus derivative of the bottom times the top over the bottom squared. Sometimes people get hung up on who's F and who's G. It's not about the labels. It's about the location. But using these labels, this is our derivative. So derivative of the top, the derivative of 3x will be 3. Derivative of 1 is 0. Times the bottom. So that's F prime times G. That's all I've written out so far. Minus, that minus just comes along for the ride. The derivative of the bottom. The derivative of 4x is 4. The derivative of negative 3 is 0. So I could put 4 minus 0 in parentheses here, but 4 minus 0 is just 4. That's G prime times the top. So now I've written G prime F right there, all over the bottom squared. Oops. And all these, I keep writing the wrong thing. All these parentheses you see me writing, these are all required. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, let's stop there.